Cultural practices and death rituals. Death rituals are deeply embedded in cultural, religious, and societal contexts. They serve as expressions of a community's beliefs about death, the afterlife, and the meaning of life itself. These rituals provide structure, foster connection, and offer a sense of closure, enabling the living to honor the deceased and cope with their loss. Death and dying in different societies. Cultural practices surrounding death vary widely across societies, reflecting differing beliefs, values, and traditions. These practices are shaped by religion, geography, historical influences, and social norms. However, they share common goals: honoring the deceased, offering solace to the grieving, and reinforcing community bonds. Western societies. Individualism and formality. In many Western societies, death is often viewed through an individualistic lens, emphasizing the personal legacy of the deceased. Funeral services are formal, structured events where family and friends gather to pay respects. These services often involve eulogies, prayers, and rituals such as viewing the body or laying flowers. Medicalization of death. Death is frequently managed in hospitals or care facilities, and the process of dying is often highly medicalized. Hospice and palliative care, however, are becoming more prevalent, emphasizing comfort and dignity in one's final days. Memorial practices. Burial and cremation are common, and digital memorialization, for example, online obituaries, social media tributes, is becoming increasingly popular. Eastern societies. Community and spirituality. In many Eastern cultures, death rituals emphasize collective mourning and spiritual beliefs. Ancestor veneration is a significant practice, with rituals aimed at maintaining relationships with the deceased. Integration with nature. Eastern death practices often reflect a strong connection with nature. For instance, in Japan, cremation followed by enshrinement in a family grave is common, and rituals often include offerings of food and incense to honor the deceased. Indigenous and tribal societies. Sacred connection to the land. Indigenous cultures often view death as a return to the earth or a transition to the spirit world. For example, Native American tribes might conduct ceremonies that emphasize harmony with nature and the community. Oral traditions and storytelling. Storytelling about the deceased is a common practice, preserving their memory and reinforcing cultural values. Unique rites. Some tribes perform sky burials, where the body is left exposed to the elements, symbolizing a return to nature. Others practice ceremonial dances or rituals to ensure the safe passage of the soul. African cultures. Elaborate ceremonies. African death rituals often include extended mourning periods, drumming, dancing, and communal gatherings. These ceremonies celebrate the deceased's life and ensure their safe transition to the afterlife. Role of ancestors. Many African societies view ancestors as active participants in the lives of the living. Rituals may involve offerings to maintain favor with the ancestral spirits. Latin American cultures. Celebration of life. In countries like Mexico, the Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, is a festive occasion where families create altars, decorate graves, and celebrate the lives of the departed with food, music, and storytelling. Syncretism. Latin American death rituals often blend indigenous traditions with Catholic influences, creating unique practices that honor both cultural and religious heritage. Burial, cremation, and alternative practices. Methods for handling human remains reflect cultural beliefs about death, the body, and the afterlife. While burial and cremation are the most common practices worldwide, alternative methods are gaining acceptance as societies evolve. Burial. Traditional burials. Burial is a practice rooted in the belief that the body should rest intact, often reflecting religious doctrines about resurrection or spiritual continuity. Common in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, burials typically involve interment in cemeteries or family plots. Cultural variations. Christianity, graves are often marked with crosses, headstones, or epitaphs, and burial ceremonies emphasize resurrection and eternal life. Islamic burials involve washing, shrouding, and burying the body without a coffin, facing Mecca, as a sign of humility before God. Judaism. Jewish burials occur quickly after death, accompanied by prayers and the placement of stones on the grave as a sign of respect. Cremation. Philosophical foundations. Cremation is often chosen for its efficiency, symbolism of purification, or practical reasons. It is a common practice in Hinduism, where burning the body symbolizes the release of the soul. Cultural examples. Hinduism, the body is cremated on a funeral pyre, with ashes often scattered in a sacred river, such as the Ganges, to ensure spiritual liberation. Buddhism, cremation is common, often accompanied by prayers and rituals aimed at facilitating a favorable rebirth. Alternative practices. Green burials. Environmentally conscious green burials involve placing the body in biodegradable materials, allowing it to decompose naturally. This practice aligns with ecological values and is gaining popularity worldwide. Sky burials, practiced by some Tibetan Buddhists. Sky burials involve placing the body on a mountaintop to be consumed by vultures. This reflects a belief in the impermanence of the physical form. Cryonics, cryonic preservation, where the body is frozen for potential future revival, represents a modern, science-driven approach to death. Aquamation, also known as water cremation or alkaline hydrolysis. This eco-friendly alternative uses water and chemicals to break down the body, leaving behind a liquid solution and bone fragments. Death rituals. Honoring the departed. Honoring the deceased is central to death rituals across cultures, providing a way for the living to express respect, gratitude, and love while coming to terms with their loss. Personalized memorials. Many modern societies encourage personalized rituals, such as creating memory boxes, planting trees, or establishing charitable foundations in the deceased's name. Offerings and altar making. In cultures like those of Mexico, Dia de los Muertos, and China, Qingming Festival, families create altars adorned with photos, food, candles, and personal items to honor the spirits of the departed. Annual remembrances. Many cultures designate specific days for remembering the dead. These include All Souls' Day in Christianity, Obon in Japan, and Pitru Paksha in Hinduism. Rites of passage. Some rituals symbolize the deceased's journey to another realm. In Ghana, elaborate funerals with custom-made fantasy coffins reflect the deceased's personality, life achievements, or aspirations. Music and art. Songs, dances, and art often accompany death rituals, celebrating the life of the departed while providing an outlet for collective grief. For example, jazz funerals in New Orleans feature a blend of somber dirges and lively music, reflecting a balance of mourning and celebration. Conclusion. Cultural practices and death rituals are a universal yet deeply diverse aspect of human life. While they differ significantly in form, method, and meaning, they share the fundamental purpose of helping individuals and communities navigate the emotional, social, and existential challenges of mortality. By examining these practices, we gain insight into how cultures across the world grapple with the universal yet deeply personal experience of death, finding ways to honor the departed and bring comfort to the living.